Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we were joined today with two absolutely beautiful, amazing ladies that we're so excited to have on the show. We have Annette Grant and Sarah Karakaian from the podcast and rental business. Thanks for visiting. Welcome, ladies.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hello.
So good to
We're
see
so
you.
We
excited
are
to have
pumped to
you.
be here.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you. And I think just for our listeners, because you guys sit on more of the short-term rental urban side of the business and we're on the vacation rental side. Can you guys tell us a little bit about you and your business?
Yeah, it's super multifaceted. So hopefully we can make it super clear so your listeners can understand. So together, Annette and I, we met in 20, we still debate about this. We think it's 18.
18.
At a city council meeting here in Columbus, Ohio. I had just moved here from New York City to expand my real estate portfolio via short-term rentals. And they were imposing some or suggesting some pretty strict regulations here. And Annette was there as well for, the same purpose.
Yes.
And she actually, why don't you take it from there? You had already had a podcast idea in mind.
Yep. I had a podcast idea in mind, wanted Sarah to be on the show because she was kind of Insta famous. So I sat next to her coincidentally. I got her phone number.
Stalker.
Yeah. But had her as a guest on my show that never launched because I sat down with her and it was kind of magical being able to talk to another host with a very different background. At that point in time, I was partnering with a real estate developer. And so I didn't actually own the properties. We were doing profit sharing together. And Sarah was actually partnering with her husband and they were purchasing the real estate. So when we got on the microphone together, it was amazing because we had two different perspectives, two different strategies, and so much fun. Hosting can be very lonely. And, we had one podcast episode and then we just were like, hey, let's do this together. And then it was like going out for coffee and drinks and talking about all the laundry and cleaning all the toilets and all the guests and all the things. And it was just like, wait, we've got to share this with as many people as possible because we were learning so much from each other. And, the quickest way for us to do that was through our podcast. And now we have an online community. We have a boutique short-term rental hosting business here in Columbus. We're buying real estate together. So it's kind of just this snowball effect of all things short-term rentals.
That's so cool. And we're super jealous that you guys get to be in person together too. So if you're listening, be sure to go over to our YouTube channel because they actually record in person for all their podcasts. And we actually just went on your podcast last week and It's great. You guys have a wonderful setup. And I wish you were here with me when we were doing these, but got to do it what we can with what we have. So
absolutely.
Yeah, fortunately. Now we met you. We have to tell a story of how we met you. We told it on your show, but I want to make sure our listeners hear it too, because we might not have even gotten to the point we are in podcasting if it hadn't been for meeting you two.
Yeah.
So we were at the Vacation Rental Managers Association fall conference in San Antonio, and Annie and I had just gotten there. And you went somewhere, Annie, I can't remember where, but I went into the bathroom and I saw Annette and Sarah there, and it looked like a beauty pageant exploded. There were clothes everywhere. There was makeup everywhere. This is in the lobby bathroom. And I'm thinking, what in the world are these two girls doing in the bathroom? And one of you stood up and your shirt said, ask me about my podcast. And I said, oh my gosh, my friend Annie and I were thinking about doing a podcast. And so you started telling me about everything that you guys did. And I said, hold on, I'm going to go find Annie. She's got to be around here somewhere. So I ran out into the hallway and I said, Annie, you got to meet these two girls I just ran into in the bathroom. And you looked at me and you're like, why are you
when I go in the bathroom to meet you?
This sounds really strange. So anyways, bring Annie in and we all hang out in the bathroom there and just have a great chat. And then took it to the lobby and to the bar and had a great rest of the conference, just getting to know you guys. So it was interesting how we ran into each other there. And then again, at the Vacation Rental Women's Summit in New Orleans, ran into you our first night there as well. But it's been a pleasure to meet you and to also, I think you came into the scene at a really good time. That last year is when VRMA started opening it up so that individual hosts with less than 10 properties could attend. Mm-hmm. And you two are the only ones we met that really fell into that basket. But through you, we've met a lot of people, and it's just really opened our eyes to the short-term rental world. So we're excited to pick your brain about it today.
We're here for
And
it.
we're super thankful. There's two things. Number one, that you ladies took action and started the show, because we know so many people that ask us about podcasting and they have failure to launch. So it was so great the next time that we saw you, like you're doing it. And it was awesome to see that. But secondarily, you also welcomed us with open arms, being short-term rental hosts. I think we're here to raise the tide together. And so we just want to get that message to all of your listeners of like, we are here. We are open books about the short-term rental world. We want to work together with everyone in the vacation rental world and just create a magic together.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Awesome. So I think that one of the things that I love, just first and foremost, is that you guys recognize the chemistry and kind of that it was okay for you to come from different sectors of the business. And that's how Alex and I kind of met. I mean, I was in channel management. She was in property management. I had some channel management, OTA, property management experience, but we had differing views on some things. So we weren't trying to, get everybody to agree with one side. We wanted to share it all and have greater conversations. So I love that you guys have that same sort of background. It may not be exactly the same part of the business, but definitely similar background. And so, appreciate that. And it's exciting to see two women doing what we're doing on kind of the other side of the equation. But one thing that we've focused on and we found is that we've got a lot of listeners that are kind of from the short-term rental sector. They're people that are just getting into it. They're thinking about it. They've been in it for a while. And I think just with the way the economy is, they're kind of hitting panic mode. So they're listening to everything and they're asking lots of questions, which is really, really great. But one thing I think we all recognize is that we have to get more education out into these newbies when they come in and make sure that from the ground up, they are set up for success, because there's a lot of people out there that will kind of, I don't know, I want to say like snake oil salesmen. They'll tell them, oh, you'll make $1 million. You'll be rich. You can, quit your job and sell your house and buy a mansion and do all these great things. And they're not really prepared for what the work is going to be, the cleaning the toilets, the dealing with the guests at midnight. So I think together we can have a good conversation and bring everybody into the fold to help educate. So with that, I kind of wanted to talk about, from your perspective, what do you think are things that people from short-term rentals could teach the vacation rental side of the business?
We learned a lot going to VRMA in the fall. Like Annette said, there is this, like these two words, this vacation rental world and the short-term rental world. I actually come from the world of, I guess traditional hospitality. I used to live in New York City. That's where I got my start sharing my home in 2010 or 11. And the reason I was drawn to is because I loved real estate. And then I was an actor, but between gigs, I would work at restaurants and hotels. And there was a particularly long dry spell where I found myself at a hotel for about 5 or 6 years. And I moved around to a lot of departments. And I was like, oh my gosh, with this whole new like Airbnb platform, bringing this, this age old, like it's very, sharing a home is not new. And I think
exactly. Yeah.
That's a message that thanks for visiting that. And I try to get out to the short-term rental world. But the thing that I think the short-term rental world or the more metro markets can bring to the vacation rental world is the leveraging technology. Mm-hmm. We think we've learned, we went a lot of VRMA operators who, manage hundreds of homes, and they're still very, come to the front desk and get the keys. And like, that very which also has a nice touch to it too. Like there's a lot that we're learning from the older operators. But anything else that you can think of?
Yes, I'm going to say this. I hope I don't like ruffle a lot of feathers. I think one thing that vacation rentals can learn from short-term rentals, leave us more than one trash bag and one roll of toilet paper and one paper towel.
Yeah.
So, for us in short-term rentals, and, we talked about this on the last show, is being a little more generous with your calendar. People don't want to stay Saturday to Saturday. You can get people that want to stay 2 nights, 3 nights.
Absolutely.
But our amenities, we do not want our guests to have to go to the grocery store and buy supplies right when they check in. I still find that so prevalent in the vacation rental world, where they give you like enough to get started and then you're on your own. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're spending so much money on these homes where like, we might have a, $100 a night, 1 bedroom, and we're giving them all the toilet paper, all the paper towels. It's like, no problem. But, you get this like $10,000 vacation home. It's like, well, 1 trash bag and one roll of paper towels. And I'm like, why? So I think that's one thing that we still get a lot of listeners who are hosts now they'll go to a vacation rental and that'll happen. They're like, oh my gosh, the first thing I did when I checked in, I had to go to the grocery store and buy supply, like basic supplies. So
Right.
I think that's one of those, I don't know if that is changing rapidly, but that is one thing I still see that I'm like, oh, let's be a little more generous with that stuff and have a standard. Cause we think it should be like a hotel. When you check into a hotel, you're not worried about if
You're
there's
instantly on vacation at hotel.
right.
We actually
It's, a
do.
re- it's definitely a really good point for sure. And
Yeah.
so, I mean,
I'm sure there's a numbers behind it, and I'd love to hear.
There is.
We'll probably get a lot of emails about that one, but I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah, and honestly, we do too. And so I think that's a really good point that you bring up, because I wish I did know what the numbers were. I mean, if we were to give 5 grocery bags, and more, shampoos and conditioners and soaps with every unit, what would that look like from an economic standpoint? I don't know. I think it probably would be a lot. I mean, at scale, when you've got 500, 1,000 units, that definitely adds up. But what's happening is people, if they go and they stay in an Airbnb where it's some, more of a curated experience like yours, and they're used to that, and then they come and stay with somebody that's more of the enterprise legacy kind of vacation rental company, and they don't have that, that's when they're very upset. And we do get those, complaints sometimes. And we try and be very upfront with it, that we send out an email before guests arrive saying what is included. I mean, it includes your starter pack to get started with things essentially, but
right.
in big units, it's tough too. Cause I mean, a 4-bedroom condo, you'd have to have a whole box of trash bags for somebody staying there for a whole week. So that's a challenge, but I think you're spot on. And I think that is one of the things that needs to be addressed, because we don't want to set different expectations of when people book with you versus when they book with us.
Right.
I mean, there should be a little bit more of a common ground on what those expectations are going to be.
And that kind of goes, I think, to the conversation of standards across the industry. And kind of like to your point, when you go to a hotel, that if you go to a specific tier, you're going to get a specific level of service. But if you go to a hotel, regardless of tiers, you're going to get toilet paper, towels, linens. And what I found interesting is there's a lot of regionalization about those standards, even in the legacy vacation rentals. So I've got a lot of large groups, 500-600 homes in the Carolinas, that they don't provide linens. You still have to bring your linens.
Yeah,
and what's
there's
funny
a lot
is,
that are like that.
and that's very, very much in the Carolinas. Now in Florida, that's not the case. In Texas, that's not the case, but it is very prevalent on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in Martha's Vineyard and some of these other places where, again, the average rent is $18,000 a week, and you're having to bring your own stuff. And that's just shocking. But people are used to it. They have, people that have been coming every year. But I do think that it speaks to the larger problem of how do we create standards that do not cost too much on the, on the high end, too much on the low end, but everybody can do it. And then that way, if you rent an urban home or a condo or apartment, and you go to the beach and rent a condo, your expectation is pretty much the same.
Right. And I'll be completely honest and let everybody know, yes, I don't know the economics of that for, a huge company, but I do think what you're saying, Annie, is how can we meet in the middle somewhere? So it's we're not too generous, because we probably have a lot to learn about the economics of it, and then on the flip side, that hospitality. And I do think, as, let's say the younger generation is coming up, if that's, where they're used to, maybe they're not going on the traditional, I think the traditional family vacation is still there.
Yeah.
This is kind of the difference too, but it's starting to switch over, where social media has really made it a thing to go and experience as many places as possible. Not the Hilton every single time, or the same vacation rental home every single trip. So it'll be interesting just to see how travel changes post lockdown, with social media, and how those traditional going to the same place every single year, how that'll start to get mixed up a little bit. I'm not anxious. I'm anticipating that's going to be a pretty large turnover here. And
one other challenge that we have between professional hosts versus, you guys being on Airbnb and being able to curate things and respond more easily, the review side is a challenge for us, right? I mean, we've got so many listings on there. And we do have somebody that responds to them as best as they can, but not not probably at the rate that you can with a smaller amount, and with the level of detail that you can with a smaller amount of listings. And last night, my husband and I were looking at renting a condo in Gatlinburg. And so we're on Verbo. And it was funny, his comments on why he liked a unit, and saying, well, look at how responsive the host was, and look at the comments back that they made. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wish that we were able to do that at scale. And we were just talking to Steve Milo yesterday about this. I mean, like, it's at scale, it is a really tough thing. And that puts the professional managers, when you're in that size bucket, just at a disadvantage to what you're able to do. So
Is there any sort of, and we'll be transparent about this, is there any sort of automation that the larger, companies could put into play?
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
we do automation with reviews. So I'm just
Yeah.
Well,
wondering.
we don't
not
automate our
com-
responses.
Yeah.
We automate leaving a review for guests
Right.
in some
Yeah.
cases, but
Some channels have an autoresponder to say, like, thank you for your review, something just very generic. And then if
Yeah.
there's a, if it's lower than like a 2 or something, it'll give you an alert. I mean, there is some of those tools out there. I think, again, it's just getting it set up. And again, you don't want to be to the point where your every review response is exactly the same. So I
Right,
think that you
absolutely,
run the risk
right.
of being robotic in it.
Yeah, for sure.
But to Alex's point, when we were talking to Steve Milo, just again, the some of the OTAs are really weighing that review interaction. And when you can't do it at scale, and you can't do it in a timely manner, and if you're busy in season and staffing is a problem, it might take you more than 72 hours to respond to something, and they ding you for that. And it's like, well, we're running a business here. So I think there's got to be some grace given on both sides of the equation to find, like you said, just to kind of meet somewhere in the middle on it.
Do you solicit your guests, or do you request from your guests on Vrbo and Airbnb that they go back and that they leave a review, or do you let the channel do that for you?
And I'll let your audience know too, like, we understand the importance of not leveraging just OTAs. And I think so, and Annette and I are really trying to champion these owner operators. I think that's our biggest audience, or owner operators.
Yeah.
To really put their heart and soul into knowing that this is a business. And so asking for a review, just like you would, if you print out a receipt, or when you leave Lowe's, they always ask you, like, would you leave a 5-star review if you had a great, experience in the store? So absolutely. Or it's like, if you didn't receive a 5-star review, what could we do to improve this day? So whether it's a direct booking or on an OTA, absolutely. But it has to be done delicately too, where we're not like forcing someone to feel they have to say a certain thing. I think that I've seen a few times where I just felt like bombarded by a request from a host.
It's like you can get their temperature, and especially if they've been corresponding with you and saying really lovely things about their stay throughout, there's other times you're like, oh my gosh, if you could please leave us a review restating this, that would be amazing. You can kind of just, you can read the room on how
whether it's going to be a good one or not.
They are so important to short-term rental hosts. And like you said, Alex, we know that when guests are looking to book, they are reading those reviews. It's funny. People ask us for advice all the time. We're like, okay, look for a super host. And they're like, read the reviews. Look at the last 5 reviews. That's probably the most important. Obviously you need to like the place, the right location, price for you.
Right.
But that's something we tell everybody, like, look at the reviews and see what they're saying. People, and obviously with a grain of salt, but read through a decent amount of them to get a feel for what's going on.
I'm going to give my mentor, Kate Bueller, a shout out. If you don't know who she is the most amazing human in the world. And when I used to work at hotels, she would come in and train us on how to upsell either rooms or in food and beverage. And we just had her on inside of our membership. And she said that she's like, if she goes to a hotel, because she deals with hotels. And so I like to learn a lot from the hotel model as well. And so she travels all over the world to 5-star luxury places. And the importance of responding to a review to her and what she trains those team, like, there's money in responding to reviews.
Yeah.
There is repeat guests. There is getting that potential guest to now become loyal to your brand if you can make that a priority. So even if she's shopping for a restaurant or a reservation, and she's like, if a GM can't respond to a review within, 72 hours to up to a week. She's like, I'm just not going to dine there, or I'm not going to stay there, because I want to be a part of an establishment that's involved in their day-to-day operations. And at scale, it's absolutely hard, because actually one of our team members works at a hotel as well. And she's a general manager. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I'm going to like have a newfound passion to really be involved in that, in responding to those reviews.
Yeah, well, it's a great reminder for our listeners, and from even myself. I mean, I think we've got to just really put an emphasis on the reviews, and we do, but I think we need to put more of an emphasis on the reviews. So
well, this is what I think all businesses. I was at a seminar years ago, and he was saying how, the retention, like if you go, let's say you go on Amazon or you go to a physical bookstore and you go and look in the marketing and sales department, there are 99 books on sales and marketing and 1 on retention.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're always so focused on getting the new guests, getting the new guests. And it's like, wait a second, are the sale? It's like, why, once somebody's actually spent that hard-earned money with us, all of a sudden we're like on to the next. And it's like that retention, if we would like tip, even instead of 99, like go, 90% and pay a little bit more attention to that retention, and it will just it'll hockey stick for you. And so that's something I want everybody to listen to, is like, wait, that money that's being spent, like how can we, because they're going to do referrals, and it's going to be less money for you to have to go after and get that new guest. So I just encourage everybody, whatever facet of business you're in, we just spend so much time and energy there. It's like maybe the budgets too. Like I know Sarah and I in our own business, we have our marketing budget. It's like, we really don't have a retention bucket of like, how is it a team member responding to reviews? Is it a team member just reaching out? How, are we sending thank you cards? Things like that. Our budget probably, could use some readjusting too in the retention.
Yeah, it's more of a mindset, almost part of the budget, just to how you're looking at that. But it's really good points. I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about how you decide which properties you're going to buy also? Because we had been talking offline, and you said one of the strange things for you guys at VRMA was that people weren't talking about buying
owning.
units. And I mean, that's just not what our model is. I mean, it's like the opposite of that. But at the conferences that you guys go to, that's mostly what they are talking about, and on the finance side and all sorts of different things. But talk about, or tell us about which properties you've bought, and what goes into the consideration when purchasing a short-term rental.
Sarah is going to take this away, and I want her, because this was a huge takeaway for VRMA, is there was no acquisition talk. And she's going to give a wonderful story of what happened after VMA, after we talked about it. But when you are in vacation rental management, it's like you have such a close relationship with the owner. So we would our dreams are off-market deals and knowing the numbers already. So I'm going to let Sarah take it away. And we would love for people to really like dial in now and use this model of one property that we just purchased.
Oh, I was like, I don't know what story she's talking
18.
about. You guys. No, so we went to VRMA, and I was like, that's just so interesting, like the tax benefits and the wealth building, and I guess just coming at it from a real estate mindset. Like I said, my husband and I started investing in real estate in 2010, and doing the short-term rental model. We always run our numbers with long-term numbers. And that's another thing that you try to really preach to people who want to get involved in the short-term rental industry. But I went to VRMA, and I was like, oh my gosh, like these people are like, these managers are so close to amazing real estate deals.
And they know the numbers. They know all the numbers, all the historical data. They know if that house is kicking, what.
Maybe they're licensed, real estate agents, and they're getting referrals, or they're selling the property. And so I know there's commissions involved there. I'm also a licensed real estate professional, and I get that. But then I immediately went home, and we put a first right of refusal in our contracts. So now when, because we manage for other owners, and if and when they want to sell their asset, we get, they come to us first and say, would you like, to purchase this home? And we did that. So I think we purchased that home in December. And when was VRMA? October.
Yeah. So it worked.
It worked. And I mean, it was so lovely for the owner, even in our market where it is a crazy seller's market. This owner really was she's like, I just need to go back to what I know, which are 401ks and, the stock market.
Her family was growing, and she was like, I don't even have time to put it on the market or do the things. And we were like, I'll do it for you. You don't have to do a thing. Let us just buy it.
Yep. There's no agent fees involved. Like, we'll just have our lawyers do this with us. And I knew the numbers of the property. And so you asked what I'm buying too. And obviously we like to stay around like the 20 to 30%, cash on cash return. But for us, it's a property we can be proud of. It's a
Mhm.
property that our guests will be safe in. It's a property that will stand out. So we like the B+, A- neighborhoods, A+ neighborhoods, if we can find a good deal there. And it's not just metro markets. So that's interesting too, is that, I mean, I know Airbnb is definitely setting the precedent from like 2010 on and bringing this to everybody, but I manage a vacation rental about an hour from downtown Columbus. It's called the Hocking Hills area, and it's actually quite beautiful. A lot of like, it's Ohio. It's actually not flat. There are caves and waterfalls, and it's a very cool area. And
Nice.
people are building A-frames and
Tree houses,
tree houses,
cave
and
homes.
a
Yeah.
cave
Oh,
home.
wow.
In
Oh,
a cave. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
and these people are 100% direct book. Like they might leverage OTAs a little bit, but because of Instagram and social media,
Yeah.
they may not have to. And so land that just has like a wow factor to it, or an idea that you have, like Annette and I have some really creative ideas that we're like, if we could just find some time to execute on them, because people really do want those OMG moments when they travel.
Yeah.
We're also trying to tell our audience, like, gone are the days of going to IKEA and shoving a couch in there and then finding things on the side of the road and thinking you're going to make yourself rich. Like, I'm sad that even happened, but it did. But with the sexiness of short-term rentals that we're seeing, competition is fierce.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I think, like you'd mentioned, the whole, like, people are concerned because there's talk about certain things in the marketplace. But I'm just wondering if it's just a sensible leveling out.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just
I
a
think so, too.
sensible, like, okay, so now you have to care about your customer service and the guest experience and the quality of your product. And,
Yeah.
I just think the market's leveling out. And so now you just have to pay attention.
I would love to hear from some people that are new to the short-term rental space, that there are these new investors that are coming in that it hasn't worked out for, because I feel like all we really hear about are the people that are saying, oh yeah, I'm making, all this extra disposable income a month, and I just have technology do all the work for me. And I've got, one person in market and I don't live there. And I'm like, it's hard to believe that is working in every case. Cause I mean, we know it's not an easy business. And I think
No.
It's not working in every
misleading.
case.
Some of
Yeah.
the content that's out there makes it seem like this is just you're just getting residual income while you sit there and do nothing. And that's not the case. But it'd be interesting to hear in a couple, like next year, maybe what happens to some of these investors when they realize that income's not there, and that they are running into more issues. Not that I wish them, bad times, but
No.
just to hear the different side of the story.
Well, you also, the thing that I think a lot of people maybe don't know the full picture of their numbers yet. So when Sarah was just explaining to you like what we look for, also, a lot of times if people are doing a short-term rental and they hire on a manager, those numbers at the end of
Oh,
the
yeah.
day aren't as inviting as if
No,
they
no.
self-manage.
Yeah.
So that's something different too. Like what Sarah's saying, look at what the long-term rent would be, what it looks like to self-manage versus have a property manager or vacation rental manager. So you've got to run those numbers so many different ways. And yeah, that is why we are here, Sarah and I. That is why we put out content every single day, is because we do want to get louder about it. Is a lot of work, and it's great work, and it can be financially rewarding, but
Yeah.
the passive income BS, we want to, like, you are the CEO of that home, of that vacation rental,
Right.
company,
Yes.
no matter what. Even if you have a property manager, even if you have, a turnover team and a maintenance person, you're still the CEO. And I don't care where you live, if you're there or not. So
Right.
that is that is our reason for amplifying our voices.
And
so
Yeah.
those stories.
We've stayed in the people's homes where, like, they're sitting on the side of the Grand Canyon at their passive income and sipping a margarita, and their rentals are not great. They're not safe.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not fun to be in, and it's just going to it'll come crashing down sooner rather than later.
And I can actually tell you, we have some clients where we did not bring on we only host one of their properties, not the other. And we had a conversation with them. The other one is not doing well. And they're like, we're going to take it off a short term. It's not fit for it. It's not
Just
making the
not-
money.
yeah,
It's
not
not
meant
worth
for
it. And so
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, over time, once people really evaluate the time and money, I think a lot of them will fall off. Like the shine will wear off,
Mhm.
and they'll
Yeah.
really look at their numbers and go, this makes more sense as a long-term rental, and
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
peel it back off.
Mhm.
I've been engaging with a lot more individual hosts on LinkedIn, and what I do love about it is that they're they seem to be contrary to, I think, what vacation rentals had. The perception was not everybody wants to get into the business and not know what's going on. They're asking questions, they are engaging. And there's one gentleman that I've been talking with, and he's in Phoenix. And he's kind of hit that, I'm concerned about where we're going. But I said, have you looked at how many new units there are in your market? He doesn't have access to data like that. And so I shared it with him and he was like, oh, okay. It's like they've grown, like, I think it was like 50% year over year in the amount of vacation rentals or short-term rentals. And I said, what are you doing? Are you on more than one channel? Are you moving your restrictions around? You're in Phoenix. So I know there's golf courses. Like, are you creating some sort of golf package that you can put out there on social media, those type of things? He was like, I didn't even think of any of these things. And it's like, again, I think everybody thinks like, if you just put it on that channel,
right, that does,
you're going to get business, it's just going to automatically come to you. And to your point, there's so much work involved, not just from maintaining the unit, but the marketing aspect of it, and understanding that there's different guests at different times of the year coming for different things. And, you need to engage. And we talk about it all the time on our show, with different guests, is the marketing aspect of it, and engaging with your local DMO, CVB, Chamber of Commerce. And these hosts just don't think that way. They're thinking like, well, I know the real estate agent that's selling the units, and they can help me get a guest that's coming in to buy a unit. And they're just not thinking big picture, because they're not from the business. They're from banking or, money management. So they had money to get into it, but they just don't have the business savvy on the hospitality side and what it takes to do it.
And what you just said, the unit, the thing that makes Sarah and I's like skin crawl, it's like somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get an Airbnb unit. And we're like, what is an Airbnb unit? Like, you're starting a hospitality business,
right?
Real estate investor. Like, that is the one thing we're trying to like, just, we have to use Airbnb a lot because we have to meet people where they are, but we're like, okay, you're a short-term rental. And that's one of our missions too, is to just kind of change that language.
Yeah. See, you're speaking all the right language to us. And that's why we want, you guys to be at VRMA and just show that side of, you're on a different side of the industry, but you're on the right side of it. And you're maintaining the same fundamental, goals that we all have too. And certainly we all hate that Airbnb has taken and just the brand of our industry and has become the Kleenex of the industry. We've been around for so much longer than Airbnb has. It's a channel, but, and the advocacy side, I think, is really important too, that a lot of the new short-term hosts that are coming in, they're not participating, in any advocacy efforts. And I know you guys do, which is great. And that's an important thing, because at the end of the day, if restrictions come down, then nobody can rent anything. So that's
like we said, that's where we met. And that was, I will be honest,
that's actually where I'm headed after we get off this call.
I have never attended a city council meeting in my life before that one. And I was like, and I will admit, Airbnb actually sent out emails to us asking us, because I think it was more like the hotel industry was putting some lobbyists, a lot of cash behind it to kind of put these restrictions in. And that was eye-opening for myself. And there were so many hosts there. And Sarah tell, on our show, and our members, like, we're like, yes, if there's any sort of event where you can at least be present and show up, you've got to show up in your town, wherever that is.
Our mission at the end of the day is to level up what it means to be a host. And that word was probably mostly, it's an Airbnb made it a thing, right? But like you said, we're meeting them where they're at. But if we can bridge this gap between, you call them professional hosts or, legacy properties, but to professionalize what you do as an owner operator or as a manager of rental properties, then we all win. So we have to bridge this gap. We have to start talking from, owner operators to people who've been doing this for a very long time, because there's a lot of us, you know what I mean? There's more independent owner operators on Airbnb than there are hotel rooms. You know what I mean? That's a lot of people. And so we have to have these conversations. We have to come together. We have to really level this up and just meet so that we can all benefit, whether you're on the East Coast or in the middle of Columbus, Ohio. It's a good thing, but we just have to make sure that we're being sensible.
Yeah. I have a friend that I worked with several years ago, and she comes from OTA side of things. And she lives in a very, I'm not going to say the destination, I don't want to out her, but she's in a destination where she ran for city council. And so she's on the city council now, and they're facing mass amounts of like discussions about regulations, and there's a big upheaval about, they want to go super strict, and the dependency for the vacation rentals and the short-term rentals is so high that if they go to the super strict, it's really going to affect, again, it's going to affect labor, it's going to affect the restaurants, it's going to affect the attractions, it's going to affect the amount of events that are coming to the area, like all these things. And so her and I are getting together tomorrow to talk, because she's just like, I just want to know what other destinations are doing before we go down this road. And I think, you come from a side of thinking like, I know what the city needs, but I think unless you live in a like destination, like Alex and I both live in vacation destinations, we understand there has to be a balance there. The problem is the people that are making the decisions are the ones that are, they chose to live beachfront in a tourist community, and now they're going to complain about it. And I worked for a lady years ago, and she would call these people againers. They have something to complain about again and again and again. And they show up at every meeting about something, and it's the stop sign, it's the speed bumps, it's the whatever it is. And right now, the hot thing is just regulation on vacation rentals. I don't want these party houses. I don't want people staying in this building next to me. Well, you bought a condo in a high rise that was zoned for vacation rentals. So
well, but it's not vacation rentals. It's the Airbnb business that's come in the last couple of years.
But in our market, it's even vacation rentals. That's what I'm saying. It's like there are vacation rentals that,
but it's the same thing. But it's,
absolutely,
it's the influx of Airbnb
it's
over the last couple of years that's what's made it so bad. But
it's the whole perspective of it. But I mean, we had people complaining 10 years ago about the building of these condos or building of the attractions to bring people into town. And so I think, again, it's a larger conversation that every destination has to have. But if we don't get everybody on the same page, to one, register their unit, be legal about what you're doing, pay attention to noise ordinances, and be a good steward of the industry, but also just to go back to being hospitable. Like, is this what you want living next to you? Probably not. So like, how do you manage that guest and the expectation of them coming in so that the people that live next door to it aren't going to be upset? And it's just a huge problem.
And it's such this like tough thing where I'm excited as a real estate investor and as a property owner that I can use my property how I see fit. Like that's very important to me. Property rights, I hold them near and dear to my heart, but Airbnb makes it like, oh, you can sign up and host your home in 7 minutes. And then all of a sudden we have all these hoteliers, or you know what I mean? Are these people who thinking they can like just put their home up on Airbnb and that's it.
Yeah.
That's also the problem. But it's, I also want to like welcome those people with open arms, and that's how we're going to like change things. It's like, hey, so proud of you. Love that you're doing this. Come over here.
Listen to all our podcast episodes.
And just know that you're actually leaving money on the table. Like if you think you were going to do this and make millions of dollars, unfortunately, that's not the case. But it can be if you do, if you do these things, if you have some seasonality adjustments, if you change your hero image on your listing, if you actually try to invite guests back, if you go on different channels, if you build a brand for yourself, like this could be a family business for you and your children and your children's children. So to have them like really think bigger, like, yes, I guess Airbnb roped you in here, but now that you're here, if all this sounds attractive to you, like the possibilities are endless. But we're gonna have to work together because, I think, Alex is right. In terms of these people opening up these condos or these homes or whatever, and they're not paying attention. They're not checking in, and it's trickling. It's like, oh, these Airbnb, and of course it gets bad press. Of course, if there's, a big party and someone is hurt or killed, I mean, that's going to make national news.
Right.
That's not good for any of us.
Right.
Yeah. I when I was in management, we had a problem, and it was before Airbnb, but it was VRBO was the problem. It was all the owners that thought they could do it on their own, and they were on VRBO. And so it was a similar situation. It's just cycled over, and Airbnb kind of like harnessed the power of those individual people. But I think, again, if people understood from the very first unit, here is your starter kit, like just like a starter kit for a renter. Here's your starter kit for renting. And these are the things that you should know.
And that's where I think, Annie, we were talking about this at the executive summit. The National Association of Realtors really needs to be present at these events with us too, because I mean, that's where it starts with. I mean, the person who sells you the property, they should be the one that's educating you, and we should be holding them responsible to say, okay, let's work together here.
Excellent point. That's an excellent
We'll talk about that too, just really quick. I know we're getting, long-winded here, but you have to technically you either have to own the property or you
Yeah.
need to be a licensed real estate professional.
Mhm.
But I this whole like loophole with the master leasing and the arbitrage model frustrates me because now they have part ownership because they have a lease for the
Right.
property, and now they're able to just really scale so fast. It gets out of
Yeah.
hand for them. And then again, we find ourselves into problems. And I'm here for capitalism. I'm here for people to build their businesses.
Yeah.
But it's just for the whole realtor licensed real estate professional thing, like I just want us to like check ourselves there as well in terms of like, just being thoughtful with
Yeah,
knowing that you are leasing out property in a short-term rental basis.
Yeah.
And
And the
that's the deal.
expectations need to be set from the beginning, and the realtor has the opportunity to do that
Yeah.
and not give them false hope of where they're going to be going with
Yeah.
it.
Right, just for that commission and that quick.
Yeah,
quick
exactly.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, side story. So last night I was on Facebook, and a girl that I know was posting. She has a bunch of cars that she puts on Turo here. I mean, that's like her business.
Oh, cool.
And she was complaining because there's been so much new inventory added to Turo that now she used to be like one of like 30 cars in her area, and now there's 300, and
geez.
they're driving the price down.
Yeah.
And quality's bad. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Airbnb
Right.
all over from the beginning. It's just a different industry, and it's just rinse and repeat. But it's interesting to see, how things evolve and how it seems like a good thing to start, but then the issues come out and it's like, oh my gosh, the fundamental business of what you guys do and what we do is good, but it's some of these channels that are trying to monopolize and just make money on things that are ruining a good thing in a lot of cases. But
Right. No,
Yeah.
and so that's why it's important for if you're going to go into it, you just have to be the best.
Yeah.
And then be aware when you do use your dollars then to go on
Yeah.
vacation or wherever you're going for a business trip, for vacation, visiting family, like pay attention to the reviews and make sure that your money's being recycled back to those responsible hosts. So we do vote with our dollars. So,
Right.
I think that if we can just all be the best at what we do and continue to vote wisely with our dollars, that'll be helpful. And then show up when it counts, like show up and have a voice.
And always be learning, tuning in to your podcast, reading a book, learning from owner operators or operation management companies that have been around for a really long time. I mean, they've been around for a long time for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we can't all reinvent ourselves. We need to always be learning and adopting new practices and all that kind of good stuff. But if someone's just, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably
is.
Right. Exactly.
Hundreds of units while you're sitting on a beach sipping margaritas. Like,
that
sounds
we
too
all
good to be
want that,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Correct. Right. So it's a fun industry. It's super rewarding, but it is a lot of work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
Well,
Annette
we
and Sarah,
are.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
We really
Such
appreciate it.
great content.
Thanks for
You guys-
visiting.
Yeah. Thanks for,
You're
thanks for
very
visiting.
welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Such great energy. So tell our listeners and tell us, where are we going to see you next this year? Are you going to any of the other conferences coming up, vacation rental ones?
We're going to go to VRMA International in Las
Awesome.
Vegas. So
Great.
if any of your listeners, we will most likely be wearing our ask us about our podcast shirts.
Yeah.
So
we've got to think of a funny tagline. For
if anybody, you can steal ours. We did not, we weren't, it wasn't original, but if anyone sees us there, please come say hello. We want to hang out with you ladies. Hopefully we'll be able to podcast together.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. But we will be there. That is one event that we're not going to miss.
Good.
Awesome.
Great. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you and find out more about your podcast and your hosting, where can they go?
I think the best place to go is thanksforvisiting.me. And we're lots of resources.
And a podcast at Thanks for Visiting. You can anywhere you like to listen to your podcast. We will be there. We'll show up, and we show up every week on Thursdays. We have new episodes.
Great. Well, we will include links in our show notes to be able to get right to the podcast and to contact you ladies directly. So thank you again for being here. You two are just a light of energy and positivity, and we're thankful to know you and I call you friends now too.
Thank you so much.
If anybody wants to contact Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. If you're enjoying the show, please share this episode with your friends, family, dogs, kids, anybody. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, thank you so much for tuning in.
Bye.